right, you guys still ready to go? You guys still with us? Yeah? Awesome. Hey, well, I'm excited to be with you guys on this Sunday morning. Like I said earlier, if you and I haven't had the chance to meet, my name is Johnny. I get to be the pastor here in Wildlife. And what we're about to do is we're about to head into what we call a time of teaching. So there should be a message note sheet underneath your chair. It looks just like this. Why don't you guys pick it up, wave it above your head so you know you have one. Awesome stuff. I really hope, 8th graders, I hope you continue that trend in high school. Trent, our high school director, you're just like, yeah. And he's like, what is wrong with these people? Hey, as we jump into this time, that is a great way to follow along. Throughout this time, the fill-ins are going to be on the front and the back of this note sheet, on the note sheet. The fill-ins are going to be on the screens behind me. We say this all the time. Hey, use that as a great tool to help you follow along as we head into this time. If you are brand new, this is what we call the most important time of what we do here in Wildlife. And it has nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do as we get to gather here and pursue God by opening up his word together. So as we jump in, all I ask is that you just respect this time, meaning you're not going to be talking to your neighbor during this time. You're not going to be on your phone during this time. If someone with a staff badge, someone like this comes over and moves you or tells you to quiet down, or they take your phone, know that we don't hate you. We actually love you so much that we really want you to pay attention to what God's going to be doing this morning. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we will wrap up this series. Let's go ahead and pray. Jesus, thank you so much that we get to be here. This is a privilege that we get to gather and talk about you as we get to wrestle and ask questions, but really we get to pursue you throughout this time. So Jesus, we ask through the power of your Spirit, your Holy Spirit, that if we are a follower of you, lives inside of us to help us become more like you. We ask through the power of that Spirit that we would just really have ears to hear what you have to say this morning, that we would be ready to listen and follow when you call on us. So Jesus, we love you. And it's in your name we all said, amen. Hey, is there any sports people in the room? You love sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, cricket, Daniel, cricket, if you've ever played baseball before, especially in near your house, maybe have you ever had the situation where you've played baseball outside of your house, maybe in the street or something like that? Imagine for a moment you're playing baseball in your front yard, something like that, and you swing the bat and boom, it just goes so far, and then you hear this loud crash and you quickly realize you broke a neighbor's window. Has anyone ever done that before? Honestly, hey, I've been there, right? We've all made mistakes before. But imagine in that moment, the ball goes through your neighbor's window, and in that moment, you have a choice to make. 1, are you going to run away? 2, are you going to blame someone rather than taking ownership for your own mistake? Or are you going to really hope that nobody saw it? Have you ever made a mistake before in your life where you're just praying and hoping no one saw what you did, and you're just hoping it kind of just goes away? Imagine in that moment, you either want to run away, you blame someone else, or you just hope no one saw it. Are you going to make those decisions, or are you going to go up to that house, knock on the door, and say, hey, I broke your window, I'm sorry, and accept the consequence, whatever they may be? Here's the reality is that so many of us, when it comes to something that we do, when we make a mistake, we tend to react in 2 different ways. 1, we'll try to run away from it. We'll try to hope, no one noticed it. We'll try to just blame someone else. Or some of us, we realize the mistake that we make and we go up and we own the mistake. And this weekend, as we wrap up the series, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about what does it mean to own our mistakes. And the question we're not asking is, have you ever made a mistake before? Because let's be honest, we all make mistakes all the time. But the question we will be asking is, hey, when you do make a mistake, what do you do when you make that mistake? How do you respond? Do you own up to it, or do you try to run away? You see, we've been in this series over this last month called Own It, No More Excuses. And really, the goal with this series is we've been asking the questions hey, what does it look like to own in our life every area of it? What does it look like to have ownership of those situations? For example, own our words, our choices, our actions. And this weekend, we're going to be asking the question, hey, when you make a mistake, how do you respond in those moments? And our definition that we've been showing and kind of talking about when it comes to ownership is this on the screen behind me. Ownership is basically this: ownership is saying, hey, this part is on me instead of saying it's their fault. You see, we've all been really good at playing this one game. We talked about it week one. It's the blame game. We are really good at that. When we make a mistake, we are really good at pointing the blame on someone else instead of taking ownership and saying, hey, that's on me. And the truth is that ownership does not stop with admitting you were wrong. Ownership requires action. And we're going to look at this passage found in the New Testament this morning where Jesus is going to highlight, hey, when you realize there's a relationship in your life, a friendship with or a relationship with a parent or something like that, and you realize something's not right there, he says, hey, go and make it right. So if you have a Bible with you, we're going to be opening up to Matthew chapter 5. And we're going to be looking at 2 verses this evening. So Matthew chapter 5, and we're going to be starting in verse 23. So Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 23. Give me a thumbs up if you're there, or like a woo, or something like that. Yep. Should not have done that. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and let's start reading Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 23. So as we jump into this time, this is in the middle of Jesus's most famous sermon. We call it the Sermon on the Mount. And what we see is he's really highlighting and revealing to his original audience that have been listening to this, what does it look like to be part of God's kingdom? What does it look like to live a life of being part of Jesus's movement? He talks about forgiveness. He talks about different areas of like generosity and stuff like that. But in this context, as you see, like the subtitle, he's talking about murder, but we're not going to talk specifically about that. But he is going to be highlighting something I think that's really powerful as we wrap up this series. So verse 23 says this. He says, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled. If you have a pen with you, can you underline that word reconciled? We'll talk about what that word means later on in this message. First, go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Now, that's our passage for this morning. 2 quick verses. In a little bit, we're going to reread this passage and kind of unpack it slowly because there's a lot there that Jesus is highlighting that I think is super important for us today in middle school here this morning. So let's reread it. Verse 23 says this. So he says, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. Now, what we need to know here is that the altar, this gift that Jesus is highlighting, that for a lot of this audience that is listening to Jesus, they are Jewish people that would be practicing Judaism. And what we need to understand is that during this time, for people to go and worship God, they would actually go to the temple found in Jerusalem, and people would be traveling miles and miles and really some like long days just to go to the temple to bring their offering, their gift to the altar as an atonement for their own sin. You see, this is before Jesus died on the cross. And if you know your Bible a little bit, Jesus died for all of our sins. He was the final sacrifice on the cross for us. But during this time, during Judaism, in this part of the world, we see that people would be offering their gift at the altar, and this would be atoning for all of their wrongdoings against God. And what Jesus is saying is that, hey, if you get to the temple, you have your offering, you've been traveling many, many days, some people 7 to 10 days, and you remember that you have something wrong with someone else, whether it's a conflict, a tension, maybe with someone at home, a friend at school, so to speak. He's saying, hey, leave your gift there, go back where you came from and reconcile that relationship. And we'll talk about what that word means later on. But what I want to do is help us understand how significant this is that Jesus is highlighting, because the original audience, these Jewish people, would have heard this and they would have thought Jesus was like out of his mind. Because so many people would go to the temple, they'd be traveling so long, and they hear this. The moment you get there, you remember something that you have against someone else. He's saying, hey, leave it there and go reconcile. So what I want to do, there on your note sheet, we have a little map there to highlight where Jerusalem is, and then a specific area in this part of the world known as Galilee, where a lot of people that Jesus would have been teaching to have come from. So there on your note sheet, look at this map for me. Do me a favor, on the map, find the word Jerusalem and kind of put your finger on it. Do you guys see that, Jerusalem? It's also on the screen, but I understand some of you have bad eyes, so I made it smaller on your note sheet. So Jerusalem, you guys found it? Awesome. So that's where the temple would be, and that's where people would offer their gifts to God, atoning for their sins, these sacrifices to God. Now, if you see at the top of this map, do you guys see that word Galilee? A head nod. It was funny, last night on Saturday night, no one said yes. They all just went, it was really funny. But a lot of people would be traveling from an area known as Galilee, which is really where part of Jesus's ministry was in Galilee. And a lot of these people would be hearing this and they're like, wait, you're telling me to leave my gift at the altar, at the temple, go back and reconcile these relationships? Like, why would Jesus be highlighting this? Well, what you need to know is, like, for our understanding, like, this is about an 80-mile journey, give or take. And we didn't have Uber back then, we didn't have cars or anything like that. So people would be walking, and it would take about maybe 7 to 10 days of traveling to get to one place and the other. So when people are hearing this, they're going, Jesus, you are out of your mind. But what we need to understand is, hey, this must matter so much to God that Jesus is teaching to this audience and to us today. Hey, leave your gift, first go and be reconciled. Hey, this must be a really big deal. For our context today, imagine if we were all in Simi Valley. This would be like us walking to Disneyland and back. That's kind of like the distance, give or take, of how far this journey would be. So this is a really big deal. So imagine you're hearing this, you finally made the trip down to the temple, you brought your sacrifice, you're ready to worship God. And then Jesus says, hey, stop what you're doing, go back where you came from and make it right, and then come back. Jesus is showing us that reconciliation, again, we'll talk about what that word means later on. Reconciliation matters deeply to God. And this is not just feeling bad. It's not just thinking about apologizing to that person in your life that maybe you have wronged or something like that. It's not just hoping it goes away. It's actually going out of your way to make things right, especially if it's really inconvenient for you. Following Jesus means making things right even when it's inconvenient. So the question I have for you is, like, hey, what do you do? How do you react when you hurt someone? When you use your words in the wrong way? When you treat someone poorly? When you damage a relationship in your life, maybe someone at school or at home? Jesus's answer is not simply to ignore it, to excuse it, or to blame someone else. Jesus says, hey, go out of your way, even if it's so inconvenient, and to make that relationship right. And think about this, when it comes to our relationship with God, like you might have heard, like this vertical relationship, like it's the most important relationship in your life. Jesus is saying, like, hey, your horizontal relationship, your relationship with one another matters so much to God. He's saying, hey, before you come and worship me, you need to make sure everything is right with your relationships before you come and worship and offer something to me. This must be so important to Jesus that he's highlighting this to this audience. He's saying, hey, before you come here in Wildlife and you start worshiping me through song, for example, and you remember that you have some tension at home with your mom or with your brother or someone at school, he's saying, hey, stop what you're doing and go make that relationship right. Because God cares so much that we're all in good, healthy standing with one another. Not that we always agree on everything. That's not what he's saying. But if, like, maybe for you, you recently had a fight with your mom the other day and it just got heated. And you thought it would be a good idea to end the argument slamming the door in her face. And you woke up this morning and it's just been tense ever since. Jesus is saying, like, hey, you need to go make that relationship right. You need to own up to the mistakes that you made and make those relationships right. So with the time we have left, what I want to do is I want to unpack this with what we call the big thing. If you're brand new to Wildlife, we're so happy that you're here. The big thing for us is, like, if we were to take a big step back and ask this question, like, hey, what is Jesus highlighting and sharing with this passage? This is how we would summarize it with the big thing. All right. So if you don't remember anything this morning, remember this big thing, and then we'll talk about it later. The big thing is this. Here's your first fill-in on your note sheet. Write this down. Owning your mistakes makes things right. Owning your mistakes makes things right. So what I want to do with the rest of our time is I want to unpack this further because I believe Jesus is highlighting like, hey, for a lot of us, we have wronged someone. Maybe we have made fun of someone. We hurt someone's feelings, whether we intended to or not. He's saying, hey, ownership is highlighting, hey, when you go and make things right, we need to make sure our relationships with one another are in good standing before we go before God and we worship him. Because so many of us, we're worshiping God and we're pretending like everything is fine at home, even though it's not. He's saying, hey, we need to go make things right. As followers of Jesus, we're called to take the higher ground. We're called to take the first step. And part of that means we need to make things right. So there in your note sheet on the back, we have a section called Own Your Mistakes, 3 Truths. And we're going to unpack these hopefully pretty quickly. So here's number one. Number one is this on the back of your note sheet. Number one is everyone messes up. Everyone messes up. Now, again, a lot of us would probably hear that go, well, like, yeah, of course we all mess up. None of us are perfect. And that is so true. We all mess up. And I'm so grateful that, based on our performance, that's not how we earn God's love. It's based on Jesus's performance on the cross. Like we could never earn it. We could never deserve it. And I'm very thankful for that. Even when you mess up, Jesus still loves you. But everyone messes up. Nobody gets it right all the time. For some of us, we lose our temper. We say hurtful things. We make selfish choices. And the truth is that we hurt people. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, we meant to do it or not meant to do it. But the problem is not that people make mistakes. The problem is when we do make mistakes, we either pretend that we don't make mistakes, even though we clearly did. Others of us, we blame someone else. We excuse what we did. Maybe for some of us, we say, hey, it's no big deal. Oh, calm down. It's not a big deal. Why are you overreacting? Others of us, we act like it's no big deal at all. Think of it kind of like this. You cannot clean up a mess you refuse to admit exists. You can't clean up a mess in your life when you're not admitting that it's actually a real mess to clean up. The bottom line is making mistakes is a human thing. We all do it. But refusing to own them is a choice that you make. And like last weekend, we talked about like we need to own up to our choices that we make. Number 2 is this. Ownership starts with honesty. Ownership starts with honesty. It's really interesting. The word honesty today is kind of like a foreign word to a lot of us, if I'm just being honest, not just here in wildlife, but like our culture today. Like there's just something in us that we don't want to be honest with one another because whether we're afraid of what someone might say, we're afraid of how they might react, we're just embarrassed. So we try to lie, even if it's a really, really small lie. We have a problem with being honest, but ownership starts with being honest with yourself and other people. Notice this passage that we looked at. It's there on your note sheet. Jesus says, hey, therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you. Notice Jesus does not say, hey, he does not say defend yourself, explain yourself, argue your side. He's saying prove you were right. He's saying, no, remember. Remember. That means we need to recognize it. That means we need to be honest and we need to stop avoiding it. Excuses say stuff like this. Here on the screen, I have a couple of examples. Excuses say, hey, I was just joking. You took it wrong. Well, everybody does it. It wasn't that bad. Well, I'm sorry if you were offended. Like, those are really lame excuses. But a follower of Jesus means we need to be owning up and being honest with other people. Ownership says this: I was wrong. I hurt you. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? You know, that second one there, hey, I hurt you. Like, hey, that's a really vulnerable response, especially when you actually did hurt someone, not just like maybe physically. I'm talking like emotionally. Like maybe for you, you recently have accidentally, or maybe for you, you just hurt someone in your life, like a really close friend of yours, and you realize that you made that mistake and you go up to them and you say, I'm sorry. Wildlife, I want to call you a little bit higher right now that just saying you're sorry, I think sometimes isn't good enough. I think you need to identify why you're sorry. You know what I mean? Like just saying, hey, I'm sorry. For what? I don't know. Just sorry. But if you admit like the why you're saying you're sorry, like, hey, I'm so sorry I hurt you, or hey, I'm sorry that I embarrassed you in class the other day. Will you forgive me? That is super powerful, because when you're able to identify the why you're apologizing, I think real relationships then can strengthen there. Think of it kind of like this. Here on the screen, you can't fix what you won't admit. Like, you can't fix something in your life if you're not willing to admit that it needs fixing. It is so important for us. Hey, guys in the front, I can hear you this whole time, just to be clear. All right. So quiet down. So understanding like, hey, you can't fix something that you won't admit is broken. We need to have this understanding of this, is that ownership starts when excuses stop. And number 3 is this, write this down. Following Jesus means making it right. Following Jesus means making it right. As followers of Jesus, we're called to be peacemakers, meaning where we go, we're not supposed to cause chaos and destruction. We're called to bring peace. Sometimes that means we need to take the first step and kind of get our hands dirty a little bit and maybe say, we're sorry, will you forgive me? Own up to our mistakes. Look at this verse Jesus highlighted earlier that we looked at, Matthew 5:24. He says, so leave your gift there in front of the altar. So leave what you're about to bring before God. God's like, hey, I don't want that right now. I want you to go make right with your relationships in your life and then come to me and worship me. He says, leave your gift there in front of the altar. So first go and be reconciled to them. So that word reconciled is super important. Our definition for this is your next fill-in. Reconciliation is this, is making things right in a broken relationship. Making things right in a broken relationship. Now, when Jesus was teaching this to his original audience, this would have shocked people. To go out of your way, even if it's inconvenient, and to make things right in a broken relationship. Jesus is basically saying, hey, making things right with people matters so much that I want you to deal with that first. Because Jesus cares so much that we are all in good, healthy relationship. Because that's Jesus's heart for his church, especially his body, that we're all getting along with one another. We're all encouraging one another, supporting each other. Notice Jesus does not say, think about it, get back to me in 5 to 7 business days, like he says, hey, don't feel guilty about it. Wait for them to come to you. Hope it goes away. Like he's saying, like, no, don't do that. He's saying, go. If you know you have wronged someone in your life, go and make it right. Don't think about it. Go. Because I think sometimes when we think so much about some things, we'll never take action about it. And Jesus is saying, hey, go and take action. That means, a couple of these examples on the screen for us, is like, hey, we need to go have that conversation. We need to go send that text. Can I get that on the screen? We need to go send that text message. We need to go maybe apologize. We need to go own our part of it. That for a lot of us in this room, maybe we have hurt someone. Jesus is saying, hey, go make it right. Go have that conversation. I know it says go have that text message. I would say, hey, go have that phone call. Go try to have that FaceTime call with that friend of yours. Go try to meet up in person and own whatever you need to own. Because this matters so much to Jesus, that the relationships in our lives are in good standing. This does not mean, the next thing on the screen is, this does not mean they will forgive you right away. That is not even close. That sometimes you might go up to a friend of yours that maybe has hurt you, or you hurt them, or it's kind of mutual, and you own your part, you ask for forgiveness, you say, I'm sorry for hurting you, whatever it is. And the truth is like, they might not forgive you right away. I know for me, that's really challenging. When I ask for forgiveness from someone and they don't forgive me right away, I'm kind of like, what? But you're a Christian, you're supposed to forgive it. It's like, sometimes people just need to take time to process. I know a buddy in my life over the last year or so, or the last 2 years, we've had a lot of tension and conflict and stuff. And we had a huge conversation a little over a year ago, and it really got messy. So much so we didn't talk for 5 months, and it got really uncomfortable, even though we were good friends. And eventually we did talk, and I was hoping that we would have a much better conversation. I was like owning my part. Hey, I'm sorry if I hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you, but if I did, hey, I own up to that. But to be honest, it didn't go how I thought it would. And for some of us, the friendship instantly gets fixed. That is not what this means either. Other things is like everything becomes perfect. I think some of us, we hope that when we have those conversations, like everything kind of just gets like brushed under the rug. And that's just not how real relationships happen. Sometimes you got to keep talking about it and processing it, because there's like usually two types of people in the world. People that are what we call external processing, meaning they have to like talk with a friend or a life group leader of like, hey, can you help me like process what's going on here? So they have to verbally talk about everything. There's other people kind of like me that you're kind of like an internal processor, meaning you're kind of like maybe you have to journal it out or think more about it, or kind of just like have some extra time where you're just like pondering on like how you feel about certain situations. And some people are like that. So if you go up to someone, you're trying to have a conversation with them, you're asking them to forgive you or whatever, and they don't forgive you right away, sometimes it means they just need more time. So good language that I've learned in my life is like, hey, I know you might be like an internal processor. You might take time. Like, hey, do you want to like talk again about this in like a week? I'll give you a week to think more about it, and then we'll come back together. It is so important, again, for Jesus that we are all in good relationships with one another. But the thing I want you to understand is this: followers of Jesus take the first step. Followers of Jesus take the first step. Ownership is not just admitting you were wrong, it is doing something about it. The bottom line, again, as a follower of Jesus, we take the first step. Pastor Michael here, the old man over there on the other side of the campus, don't tell him I said that. He once said this, and it was just so profound to me. It's like, hey, as followers of Jesus, we always take the high ground, meaning like we don't do relationships in conflict like the world does. Like the world says, hey, I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to cut you out of my life. That's not a follower of Jesus does. A follower of Jesus always takes the high ground. Not that we're better than everyone, but we take the first step. We get our hands dirty. That there might be a relationship in your life right now, whether maybe it is with your mom or your dad, there's some conflict at home, and no one talks about it. A follower of Jesus takes the first step, meaning you're going to bring up this conversation and you're like, oh, that's going to get messy. Yeah, it's going to get messy. It's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. But man, that's what we're called to as followers of Jesus. And what's beautiful is like we have God's Spirit inside of us to help us in those conversations. We don't have to do this alone. Thank God we don't have to do these things alone. So as we wrap up, I have two questions for you. And these questions are questions I want you to ponder on. Maybe this is my wiring of how I'm wired, of like, I like to think about things and like pray about them and journal and then talk with other people. That's how I'm wired. So this is hopefully maybe helpful for you if that's how you're wired. But here are two key questions. The question is this. Number one is there something in your life that you need to own? Is there something in your life that you need to own? And this takes some time to think about and to process and to ask questions about. So a great way to do this is I would, one, like think about your relationships in your life and like, are you in good standing with all your friends? Or is there like some tension there? Like you don't know what's going on, but there's just feels like something like, I think this friend's mad at me or something, like, I don't know. Go and have that conversation. Be like, hey, is there something, like, did I hurt you in any way? Like, if so, I want to own up to it. But if I'm being honest, I don't know what it is. You're just being honest with them. And if they're like, yeah, I was really like, you didn't invite me to your birthday. And like, I just felt really upset by that. You're like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to have any mean to make you feel excluded or anything like that. Like, hey, I'm sorry. Would you please forgive me? Like, those are just really easy and practical, but like really hard and messy ways for us to see if there's any area that we need to own. A couple weeks ago in week 1 of this series, we highlighted this saying, own 100% of your 2%. That if 98% of a conflict in your life is really on this other person, like it's just like clear as day, like they like, they punched you first. I don't know. Like it's clearly on them, but the 2% is like, well, yeah, you punched them back. Well, they start, this is, hopefully this doesn't happen. But in all seriousness, like, is there at least 2% of the big picture argument that you can own 100% of? And again, ownership is not like, hey, I'm sorry if I offended you. I'm sorry if I did this. Like, hey, I'm so sorry that I hurt you. Like you're identifying what it is and you're asking for forgiveness. Own 100% of your 2%. Another great way to do this is really ask God. Go before him and be like, God, is there someone in my life that I have hurt? Is there someone in my life that I need to apologize to? And this takes time. If you want to become what we call a mature Christ follower, meaning that you just want to become more like Jesus every single day, this is a great step to do that. Owning 100% of your 2%. And as the band comes up, your last fill-in is this. Number 2 is this. Who do I need to make things right with? So is there something you need to own? And then who is someone in your life you need to make things right with? Again, these questions are not just like easy. Here's the answer. Sometimes they take time to think about and talk with your life group leader about, or your parents about, or your good friends that also love Jesus about. Who do I need to make things right with? That wildlife, maybe for some of us in this room, it's our parents. Maybe there is conflict at home and we need to make things right with our parents, or maybe it's our siblings, maybe it's a friend of ours, a teacher at school, a leader. That honestly, 8th graders, for you, is there like a teacher at school right now that you've never gotten along with? I'm sure there is. And you're about to never see them again. Maybe for you, you need to go up to that teacher and just say, hey, I'm so sorry. I've been such a jerk the last 3 years or something like that, and just own up to it. Because we should not leave these relationships in our lives and pretend like everything's fine, especially when they are not fine. So for others of us, we need to make this phone call. We need to have these conversations. We need to be owning our part, because a follower of Jesus takes the first step. Let's go ahead and let's pray. Jesus, thank you so much for your word, that you help us how to have conversations and relationships and deal with conflict with other people. So Jesus, we ask through the power of your Spirit, would you help us with these 2 questions that we're going to ponder on and thinking about this week? Maybe we do need to have that phone call, or we do need to have that conversation, and we need to own our part in it. And Jesus, I'm just so thankful that I've kind of shaped this series over this last month about ownership, because I've heard so many stories for so many of us in this room that we didn't realize we're not owning parts of our lives where we need to be owning them. So Jesus, would you help us become more like you? And it's in your name, amen. Okay, I'm going to invite you guys to stand on up. Hey, as we go into this last song of worship, I would just encourage you guys, hey, take this seriously. It's not a chance to talk to one another. It's not a chance to be a distraction to the people around you. 8th graders, hey, this is like your last time in wildlife worshiping. So encourage you, hey, take advantage of it. Go all out. It's going to be a powerful time of worship. So let's go ahead. Let's go in this time.
Hey Jack, can you hit your tuner for me?